everybody. Welcome, welcome. It's episode 7. And we've had 6 episodes before this with this smart guy that's next to me. I think he's showing up next to me here. And John's our marketing expert here. I'm Mia Voss with Inspect.com. We have Jeff Bond below. He's not only a club president, he's the founder of Inspect.com, isn't he?
I thought I was the smart guy.
You're the smart guy.
Hello. Hi, Mia. Hey, Ammon.
All right, folks. So if you are just now joining us, you have 6 other episodes that talks about how to build your presence online for home inspectors. So we put all those links in the description here. But today we're going to be talking about creating evergreen content. I'm pretty excited for this one, Ammon.
Yeah. It's always a big one.
Content creation. As I put in the description, it is a big thing on the to-do list that always seems to get people, don't you guys think?
Yes.
Content creation.
It's one of those really creative tasks that you kind of have to make time for.
Yep. And the evergreen piece is huge too, though. So you can create content that is kind of stale, or it's like, wow, when did you put that out there? But the evergreen piece is where it's really going to resonate for people and bring them in too, because they're going to be learning something new, but it's fresh. So you guys ready to get started?
It's the gift that keeps on giving. I agree.
In a good way. Absolutely. All right, here we go, guys. So as we said, this is episode 7, grow your online presence. You can go back and look at the others. Content is what, folks?
King.
Or queen. That's right. Content is definitely the way to go. So we're going to jump in. Here's what it's going to be about today. We're going to obviously explain what evergreen content is, why you need it, and how you create it. So let's jump in. And don't you like how these slides are moving and all jumpy and keeping your attention? Yes, they are. All right, Ammon, content that changes rarely. It's all you.
Yeah, the point of evergreen content is that, you can create something and it keeps on working and working and working. And that way your time is most effectively used. Because otherwise there you are, you're chipping away time after time with a post, with a piece of content that you write it gets a tiny bit of attention, and then it's gone into the ether. It vanishes into the streams of the internet, never to be seen again.
It's easy for that to happen, too.
It is. Jeff, what are some examples for you as an inspector that's really worked as far as evergreen content?
I know I keep going back to it, but the mobile home pieces, because they're problematic, mobile home roofs are constantly something that people are looking for. And so is writing a nice piece that talks directly to that and solving their problems has turned out to be really nice. I just keep on getting people contact me about that because they find it very relevant. And, I wrote that 7 years ago. And still
Did you really?
Yeah, it still gets tons of attention. It really does. And the other thing is, because I live in the Bay Area, we have a lot of earthquakes. I write articles related to earthquake preparedness, making your house structurally sound in advances, and small things like little anchor bolts is earthquakes, or dot the I's, cross the T's, and the problem never happens. Is a lot of times the little things can make huge differences. So earthquake preparedness is another evergreen content topic.
So you're hitting all the points here too, and you're saying content that changes rarely, once written, keeps working, which is important, and gets more ROI with time.
Yeah, I've even had people just contact me about the article, and then because it didn't turn out that I was the proper person to serve them, it's just as Ammon mentioned, I referred them, but then later on they're referring business back to me from other people because they appreciated the value they got from the evergreen content I wrote like 6 years ago. It's crazy. It works.
And don't you guys think too that also shows that your competition is collaboration?
Absolutely. There's certain competitors you can't easily collaborate with, but there's an awful lot of people who you may view as competition that are not.
Right. Then they do want to refer you. When somebody's feeling really good about what you're doing, they know you're going to be in the go-giver kind of mindset, which I love. Bob Berg, one of my favorites. So you are giving out information, and then everybody's going to refer each other.
We've had that with our inspectors. Is Eris from Bay Area Inspections is listed on Inspect.com, and he contacted me to say thanks for getting a couple referrals, and it was my pleasure because he does a great job in San Francisco, and it's a little too far for me, and it's just that Ammon, just as he mentioned, it's 36 miles, and if your circle is 35 miles, is don't do it. Is otherwise you just you scatter yourself. So it's been nice to hear that, and I'm glad to send him business because he's an excellent inspector.
Gotcha. Anything else on this topic, guys?
Yeah, I think it is worth really pointing out the fact that, all of your content has to be written. It's all got a writing time. So it's not like any content has zero investment of your time. So making sure that you get the most back out of it is a really important part. So whenever you can, make content that's evergreen, make content that is going to last, that is built for the long haul.
Do you think this is something, how would you suggest that people outsource it, or do you suggest that at all?
I'd certainly suggest that they outsource it if they can't produce it. If you can't every week be thinking about what content, it doesn't mean you have to create something new every week, but you have to be thinking about it every week. You have to have some time put aside, because a really good article may take you several weeks to put together, especially if you've only got a few hours a week.
It's timeliness too. It's something happens, and then the moment is there, and you need to seize it. Because if you come back to it 6 months later, it's too late. And so, as a lot of times, also the idea is fresh in your mind. Is you should definitely, like as Ammon said, is take advantage of the immediacy of it. Because the longer it runs, the more value you get from it. So the sooner you do it, the more value you get. So you should get on it. No reason to wait.
Totally. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the timeliness could be misleading to some people, because usually if it's something that is time related, it's probably not going to be evergreen. If it's something that can expire, by nature, it's not going to be evergreen content. But that 6 months you waited is 6 months that it could have been bringing in business and building up links and building up traffic and building up reputation.
Right.
Because this thing is like a flywheel, and each piece of content has to build on the momentum you built up already with your site, with the last pieces of content.
I would say that seasonality can kind of pop in there, though, for timeliness.
Get out of my head, Jeff.
You stop it. I know how it is. There's no reason to write it unless you're specifically like right now. We're writing content for Christmas and the holidays, and it's just not Christmas anymore. It's Happy Holidays, and just being aware of that, making changes and adjustments, but is for the most part is forward thinking about things is what you need to do. You definitely should put some thought into this to make it relevant. At least we've had luck with that.
Because that seasonality is when it can become, it's not always going to be, it can be a seasonal evergreen. How's that sound?
Absolutely.
So,
yeah,
right.
Well, what we've got there is recurring evergreen.
Ooh. Look at that. I'm going to write that one down, which is true, because so it's not going to, it's going to have that quarterly type of thing. So right now, even though not everybody's necessarily back to school, there is still that element to it of, now that's the fall that's coming, what kind of maintenance are you going to do for your home? How are you going to make it safer? Is it, even for pool inspectors, or if they're closing up because they want to, winterize things as you're getting into that season. So it can go back, the ROI will come around quarterly, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with the holidays and things like that, these are things that recur. And once you've created that piece of content, it can sit there all year round. It won't get traffic when it's not on people's mind, because people aren't searching for it. But as soon as they start searching for it again, up it pops. It's still there. It's still got the old links that it built. It's not a piece of content you refresh every time. You just make sure it's still valid.
And but talk a little bit more on that. Gets more ROI with time then, so that's the seasonal thing. As each year comes, it's going to kind of pop up there more often. It's going to gain in popularity.
Exactly. If you, like I said, if you create a post and it gets some attention and then it's gone with the ether, it's gone with the stream, because it was on Facebook or it was on Twitter, and that it's gone. People can't find it a year later. You still spent that time writing it, and you got whatever you got back from it. You obviously thought it was worthwhile. It gave a certain return on your investment of time. But if you'd put that same investment into a page, and every year that page pops up again and it gets that same traffic without any further investment because it's just sat there,
Right.
then every single time that happens, you're doubling, tripling, quadrupling your investment.
What a fun, pleasant surprise too, if you forget about it, right? Because I've done that before too with posts, and then I just did that on a post for TMC services the other day, and it to me, it's already been out of sight, out of mind. But there are new fans that haven't seen it, new clients that haven't seen it, so you have to keep that in mind too. It's not always a static same amount of people that are going to be in your world.
Well, yeah, it's just an example really quickly is you wrote a beautiful blog piece for Inspect.com, the punch list 101. I should share the metrics with you on that sometime because that gets tons of engagement. Yes, it does.
Oh, that's
it
cool.
does. And people like it and they like that list. And so look at that. That's actually a piece of valuable content that like generates both interest for Inspect.com as well as for you personally. So
sure.
if you
And
do
an
it
educational piece too, because a lot of people don't get that punch list process.
a lot of people are learning from reading that. Promise.
Yay.
Yeah.
That was a pleasant surprise, speaking
Thank
of
you for
which.
doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too. And that's not even, and that is truly evergreen because that's not seasonal,
Yeah.
right?
You've got things that specific to inspectors could be bad weather preparedness, especially storms, hurricane season, tornado season, any of those things. If those are in your region, then those are important things that people are going to be searching for year after year after year.
Yeah.
And the same with you doing an inspection, you find a piece of mold and you think, oh, I know this. I see a lot of this around here. And it took me ages to find out what it was. Now, there's a piece of evergreen content, how to identify this mold and how to treat it. Because if you show how to do it, a lot of people still won't do it themselves. They still rather call in a professional. But they'd rather get you to check that they're right in identifying it.
Not only that, that's a great point, Amonis, is that if it took you a while as an expert to kind of sleuth that out and determine it, chances are good that's lurking below the radar for a lot of people, and they're not even aware of it. And so drawing awareness and discovery to it is valuable in itself, and you may be helping someone out that didn't even realize they had a problem. So I think that's a great idea.
Totally, especially when you're getting into, yeah, I do too, especially when you're getting into pain points and urgency. So like this with the hurricane season that just got started here in the States, these are going to be people that are going to be searching not just casually, but trying to solve a tremendous pain point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Urgency. They're freaking out, typing, how do I, right? How do I?
There was something in social media this week that I noticed, which was somebody talking about their basement keeps flooding. And they've tried to sort this for over a year, and they've had inspections in, and they've had trouble identifying exactly what it is. Doesn't seem to be groundwater, doesn't seem to be this, doesn't seem, those kind of things. Well, those are things people are going to be searching for time and time and time again. If you have groundwater in your area, then all the problems that are associated with that are things that people in your area are likely to be searching for.
And they're going to be so excited if they get it solved, right? They're going to be so grateful.
As an expert, that's really one of the value adds that you can serve your community with this really truly valuable information. It's just from a non-business perspective, straight altruism is do it. But then ironically is the people that do that, they get the business because people are appreciative of that. So it has immediate as well as just larger social values and adding the center of green content, especially like you said, it's really useful in problem solving or problem prevention.
Social media altruism. You got to love that. All right, guys, evergreen content. Why do we need it? Let's talk on that. Long-term benefits.
Okay. Well, this is it. The long-term benefits are those recurring visits. But even more than that, visits great. Visits are where your business comes from. But those links that this thing can build up over time as people find this and say, oh, that was really useful. That was really helpful to me. Somebody who finds your post on mold and it solved their problem that they've had for a while and they link to it. Maybe it's just social media at first. Maybe it's on Twitter. Maybe it's on their own blog. But whatever it is, those links build up over time, and they are a major signal to Google about the importance of a piece and how highly it should rank it. So links are so important, and the longer that content is around, the more likely it is to pick up decent links.
So you had them. I love that. So it's signals to Google, right?
Yep.
Those are magic words.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the brand value thing, even if this is something that doesn't directly drive business to you, like we were saying with the community altruism, you solve somebody's problem every time they're telling the story of how they had this problem with their home years ago. They're going to remember the great place that they got the information that helped them out. Mm-hmm. You become a part of that story forever.
You do. It's like when, and women are more prone to this, but you'll say, oh, I love this. And they'll say, oh, do you love this? I got it here. And here's and so your storytelling on how you found that link, or you found that person and how that solved that problem. Because then it's a satisfying thing to the person as well when they can end the story well.
Yeah.
But we also like to tell stories, too, of things that didn't turn out well. So be on the good side of that.
Well, from a business side, too, Mia, is, I wrote an Evergreen content piece about mold and stachybotrys mold because it's an issue here in the Bay Area. We have a lot of moisture problems, and we have a lot of heavy wooded areas, and so the mold issue is very real. Had an insurance agent that just serves the whole Bay Area call up and ask about it and really liked the piece, and so they actually took and put the link for that article directly into their website. Yep. And they got tons of clients coming through, and it all of a sudden is just feeding through us where this insurance broker that has multiple offices is kind of doing light advertising for me. And you see my logo and everything right there from his website, before I even get to mine. I
like that, the version of the light advertising.
Well, I guess they must find value in it, and that's awesome. Probably the key point here is, and what Ammon comes back to is just make it epic, because if it really is truly a value, is then, especially if it's always valuable, is it's going to be appreciated for what it is. It's just a valuable piece of content that delivers always for everybody.
Yeah, and this is it's a little bit more work to make evergreen content, to make content that has that extra value, that extra longevity.
Right.
It's not just something you flip off the cuff, but that investment is always worth it. It's always worth spending that little bit of extra time to make it just that bit better, just that bit more memorable, just that bit more likely for somebody to cite it, to link to it, because the payoff is huge. It really is. And for another 2 hours, what would you have done with that 2 hours? Watch 2 episodes of something on Netflix, or write one more throwaway piece and share it to various social media channels, and it's gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeing this as investment too. Like this is a time investment to create it. So it's not just going to be an easy fluff piece, but then a long-term investment of the time to create something that has some good meat to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as a business owner, you should be doing that with everything you do, by the way. I just feel as if you really want to run a business, you should be make everything epic, or else what are you doing? I can't for 2 weeks waiting for my phone number, 321-1000 I know it's not evergreen content per se, but it's just getting that phone number is if itself epic and memorable. It's just, people don't remember a lot of things, but one thing they remember my phone number. Also the website, Inspect.com. That all is a consequence of thinking a long time ago about making content that would have long-term value, and seeing the transition from the yellow pages into the internet years ago, and trying to kind of develop that content. So as a lot of website just development itself back then is just kind of evergreen. You should be always thinking that way, I think.
Sure. Futurist.
Yeah, futurist for sure.
Yep.
For sure.
On everything, though, exactly that. A futurist of the phone number, futurist of the website name, futurist of the article itself that you're going to write as well. Now, I'm anxious to know, what's the cumulative flywheel effect?
Now, this is that thing where, you've built a piece of content, and because it's lasting, that momentum keeps going from it. Unlike social media, where to keep my views just static on social media, I've got to produce content. I've got to keep producing content, or I vanish. I'm not there. I've gone from the stream. Just to stay in place, I'm having to build content, and I'm having to build more and more and hope people share it. With content, it lasts. Everything it does lasts. It's still going to be getting X number of visits per month. It's still going to be getting so many links building up, time after time after time, even though the work on it is done. So your next piece is all additive. It's not keeping your level. This is on top of that, and you're building up layer upon layer upon layer with each piece of evergreen content.
Which is a time saver when it comes down to it, because yes, you're going to put in that effort. You're going to give up your 2 episodes of whatever it is on Netflix to put your time into that. But like you were just saying, it's a slave to that wheel of social media, and even more so now. I mean, a good example of it is the fact, and we are going to have a show on social media, folks. So wait for that one. That's coming up pretty soon. But that's, even the fact that we have Instagram stories and Facebook stories now that are that 24-hour thing. It's kind of the same thing where it just disappears. Nobody's really going to go back on your page and see, unless they're being creepy, and see what it was you posted before. So if you do have that evergreen content, that's going to be amazing.
Yeah, even your followers on Facebook, 3 days after you've posted something is the last time it's probably going to be seen in the stream. After that, it's gone. It's gone forever. It's lost in time.
Just
they'll have to go
algorithm.
to your page to see it.
That's right. Even from the algorithms, I mean, you see how unusual it is, and we all know of it changes every day what that algorithm is. Sometimes you see the same thing over and over again, and then something will pop up new. But it's really hard to beat that. So if you got that content, plus we all know that your real estate is your website.
Yeah.
I was about to just ask that, but so you'd be out of my head. A lot of this content should reside on your website, shouldn't it? And then you should just refer back to your website from social back to your website. Is that accurate?
Yes, absolutely. Because your domain is the part you own, is the part you have complete control over.
Yeah.
Nobody controls that except you. Facebook can change its policy tomorrow, and everything you've ever done is gone.
And all your fans.
Yeah.
All your, I mean, who is the Vine? Vine is the perfect example of it. There are folks that were just enormously big as influencers on Vine, and then it's gone. And Blab was the same kind of way too, guys. Remember how we were doing all these things on Blab and had everything linked to it, and then we didn't know. And if you weren't backing everything up, everything that you did was gone on that. So if you have watched any of these shows before, you will hear us say every time that your website is your real estate. So
yeah, the three of us all invested quite heavily in Google Plus, of course. Now, the relationships we built, a lot of the followers we were able to pull off, and they did give us plenty of time.
They did.
It certainly provided value, but all the content that we had there, that a lot of it was evergreen until suddenly it's not anymore. And that's always worth bearing in mind, is that platforms are good for drawing people in for a while, but as a long-term home, there is no alternative to your own website.
Such a good point, because I do remember the way that Google Plus was set up too, was you could type and write these long missives that were like a blog post. And so if you kind of got caught up in that, and there's always going to be a new platform that's going to look like that. If you got caught up in that, again, you lost all of that.
Yeah.
So don't lose it. Put it on your website. And then we also have highest ROI. So same thing. You want the return on your investment at that time of writing it.
Yeah, absolutely. There is no inspector out there. There's no human being out there who is sat around going, I've got awful lot of spare time. I've got much too much time on my hands. It just doesn't happen. Not until retirement. And even then, it's not really that he's got too much time on his hands. It's that his wife is going to kill him if he doesn't get out of here. You've only got so many hours in a day, and let's face it, we've all spent twice as many as we have. We are all short on time. So every time, make sure that the time you spend is where it has the most value to you. And long-term content is always the most value, because of that thing of it just lasts and lasts and lasts.
Time is money, folks.
I was about to say too, because time is money, and what you should do is try to consider how much time you would personally spend yourself to write a piece of evergreen content. Let's say you spend 2 hours and you get it done in 2 hours. I'm like, first, congratulations. That's good work.
Yeah, no doubt.
It ends up being longer than that because you have to go research and find out and make sure that you're thorough and complete. And you have to be good with grammar and punctuation and syntax. So I don't mess around with this. I have a writer because it's like, really, she's amazing. And, you know, she's very versed in homes and home ownership and inspections. And the conversations we've had have helped educate her and made her more informed about inspections. And now she writes wonderful blog articles and is, you know, as I consider a half hour, an hour of time that I would do inspections as a very reasonable investment for me to generate a piece of content that generates repeat business over and over time. So for me is I use a writer because I write good, but she just writes so much better and more, just talks right to the points and in a written way that reflects well with people reading it.
I like to say I write okay, but I read better. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What were you going to say,
The
Ammon?
number of inspectors and other people in business that, you know, always say, oh, we don't have the time to create content. And you look and you say, well, hang on, make the time. And also, that 10 minutes a day you're spending on social media 3 times in a day.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like, oh, it's only 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the afternoon, and 10 minutes before. Right? Well, that's 30 minutes in the whole day. If you'd save that up, if you'd spend that doing other stuff that needed doing, and then the time that you've saved put at the weekend into having a couple of hours for your content, you will get a lot more out of it. The content you can create in 2 hours is going to have more long-term value. More importantly, you work on something over a course of weeks, you can create a good piece of content that really lasts. I myself, when I'm writing articles about SEO, they often take 20 hours plus with all of the research, with really getting everything in there to make it really useful, really informative, all backed up, all cross-referenced. That takes a bit of time, but the results are so worth it.
And it sounds like, and I know we're going to get into how to create content here, but it sounds like if you can get into that cadence. So of course, the beginning, if you're just creating your first piece of content, that's probably going to take you a little bit longer. But once you get into that, you finish that one, you've got it, you start the process again so that you have this constant flow, and then you're not under the gun, because it does nag you when you're like, oh, I need to do that. But once you get into that rhythm, you can create that content and get that flow going out there. So how do you create evergreen content?
Start with the basics. You know, you've got certain pages on your site that are already going to be turning up again and again and again. Obviously, you know, the page that you expect to come up for inspectors in the area and what you do, that's a piece of evergreen content. It's going to turn up again and again and again. So make sure you've put the time into it to make it really effective. Your about page, again, you'd be surprised how often that is going to be a part of people's decision making. And again, make sure you've put the time onto it to really make it as good as it can be, because it's a long-term page.
Jeff, that's you.
I have to thank Emma for that, because I had just a mess of an About Us page, and Ammon went actually back and he just sent it to me because I want to take a look at this, Jeff. And I looked at it, I'm like, oh my god, that's what like edit, copy, edit, paste, edit, save. It was like, thank you.
Cleaned it up for you. And then that is evergreen, because you're really not going to change unless you're updating it like I have with TMC services with my latest projects and so forth. Other than that, you're kind of staying the same. So once you get that, that well-written, nicely and good, tighten up right about page. And then Jeff, you've said that on previous shows too, when you showed all your pages, the visits that you got, how many visits that you got to your about page.
Well, they talk directly to what Ammon said, is that the About Us page is a huge part of this decision-making process for people picking an inspector, because they want to vet you and they want to find out who you are. So is the About page is your chance to really close the deal.
Yeah.
Agree. So then we have FAQ pages, collated condensed posts, and articles.
The FAQ pages are so useful in many different ways. this is frequently asked questions, and think about the things that people often ask you. Think about the things that people ask you that, rule them in or out as customers. Think about the things that people ask you that draw or don't draw business. Having an FAQ page can help stop wasting your time, because if you've pointed out the things that, people phone up and then you find out that phone call was a waste of your time, well, that's your money, that's your time.
Right.
So having an FAQ page is something that, again, it's going to last, it's going to have a long-term effect, and often it matches the questions that people are asking on the search engine. You may not know that they were asking that, because until now you didn't have a page that was turning up for it.
Yeah.
Right. You didn't even know, you didn't have something that could document that. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Nice.
On those FAQs is like I've just found, it's like a lot of times when people are calling me as an inspector, is they're calling me because they were not happy with their other inspector.
Right.
I didn't do it. It's just, there it is. And there's the phone call, and there it is right now with the contact. So I talk directly to that and one of the most common things they say is he didn't really do a thorough job. That's just what I hear. And so I talk directly to the fact is I'm going to go everywhere I can. I crawl in the attic. I crawl in the basement. I sub in the crawl spaces. I'm everywhere in that whole house. And it just seems like in talking to that one issue as an FAQ, what do you do? It automatically just has people just being satisfied that I'm their guy, because I'm going to be everywhere that the other guy wasn't. So it's talk to those tough issues.
Yeah.
And that goes back to time is money, because once you've answered that, that's exactly what it is. Frequently asked questions. The worst thing about efficiency is when you have to do the same thing over and over and over again. Put your keys in the same spot every time. Get those, you know what I mean? Like those kind of habits save you time. So those FAQs are definitely part of it too. And then that was my rant, because I get so crazy about time wasting. You know what I mean? And so this is where you can, again, time is money, because you're gonna pull them in. And then collated condensed posts and articles. This
is a really good way of getting content. Is look for stuff you've shared on social media that had some traction. Look for blog posts you've done, and look at which ones of them can be reused, turned into a piece of long-term content. Possibly combining lots of different ones together into a bigger piece. And half of it's already been written in various places. You can pull it all together, collate, condense, and you've got a piece of evergreen content out of something you'd already thrown away and thought you'd used.
Boom. Efficiency, folks. Efficiency.
And articles, that's the one, these are the ones you spend time on, that you think ahead, because the long-term value is there. This is a billboard you're able to put up that is going to be there forever. It's going to be drawing people year after year after year. So you put the time into those, or you invest in having somebody who can write them for you, who will have taken the time to really learn your business, to understand your market, understand your customers, talk in the right tone, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and back on the website design then too, and the way that it's set up, you also want to make sure when you're putting those articles in, you have the keywords, you have the backlinks, you've got the links to different things, links within your post, right? That goes to other articles that you've written, and you've got that juice going. Is that right? That
can help, but as long as you've got your navigation, the juice will flow around the site anyway. But
like it. What were you going to say, Jeff?
And I was going to say is if you really write a nice piece like that, then by all means go get it published. Just take that up to the next level, and have someone that's a major player republish it and use it. And now we're really talking, because now you've written a piece, and now someone even upstream from you is distributing it. It really helps out to see if you can get your really good content republished.
Sure. You go big, and then you've got your links so that it is being published somewhere, and then they're going to go back to your website. It's super, super win. I love it, guys. Okay, so that's it for us today. We've covered evergreen content. Next week, we're going to talk about
That's scary.
There we go. What we've been doing every week. Video and live streaming. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be the next piece of it. So any closing thoughts, guys?
No, I think we're good for now. We'll leave people waiting for that one.
Yes, and that's going to be special to all of our hearts. That's something actually how we all met, as we mentioned earlier in the show. We met through Google Plus because we were doing live streaming shows and watching each other's show and connecting. So that's a magic piece that's going to go in well with all of the rest of our episodes. So that's it for us. I'm Mia Voss. That's Hammond Johns. That's Jeff Bond. We talked about evergreen content. So we're going to again post the links for all the other shows, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.